We are live,
Live.
and I'm here. This is David Sereda from davidsereda.co. I'm here today. You can see my hair has turned almost white from the solar flares. Um, I'm just kidding. the I'm going to talk about the solar
Yep.
flares and what it all means, and I'm going to show you.
Wait, David, there's an echo.
Yeah, that was happening earlier too. So no, it seems good. Is there a delay?
Yeah, there's a delay.
Yeah, I noticed the delay earlier. Okay, so we're here to talk about the recent solar flares, and there's a lot happening here. I think that's going to interest a lot of people, and you definitely want to protect your eyes, protect your um, you know, be. I would say even still, it's good to walk around barefoot as much as you can because it electrically grounds you to the earth. If you don't have one of my metal rod staffs, which also electrically ground you, most of our shoes are rubber, so we're not grounded. And what happens is when radiation hits a target, and because your spine is made of calcium, which is a metal, and phosphorus and magnesium and trace minerals, we have 72 trace minerals in our body. So we're very electrical. So that means, and I've actually tested this with meters, that if you're not grounded electrically, the charge builds up in your body, and it gets to a point where you're being energized by these solar flares. And you'll see in a minute, these are not anywhere near deadly flares that we just had, but they are very, very powerful. So I'm going to show you um, kind of what we're looking at here. There's really a lot to share. So let's just do entire screen so this is easier. So you can see here, this is a graphic of the the comparison to the sunspot we just had, AR3664, which is now going behind the sun. And the Carrington event sunspot of 1859, which produced an X40, some 15 to 40 something level, it's disputable. X-ray, X class means extreme class event. And the massive, in my entire lifetime of 63 years, I have never seen a sunspot equal to the mass and volume of the Carrington sunspot. So the one we just had is. However, it didn't produce a flare, a coronal mass ejection equal in mass to that. So here's your top 50 solar flares of the last. Well, this doesn't really go back very. It goes back to about 2013. So you can see 2003. The big flare of 2003, and I remember this, produced an X40. So the flares that we just had were in the X2 to 8 range, and there was a lot of them. There was at least 10 of them. And because there were so many of them and the size of the sunspot that they came from, the volume of plasma that left the sun. So there's two things that happens. First, you get an X flare, and then in 8 minutes and 21 seconds, that radiation hits the Earth, and it causes radio communication blackouts, mostly in the 20 to 30 megahertz range, which I'll show you in a minute. And when you got that intense energy, it's just really good to be grounded. So that means walk barefoot on the real grass, put your feet on real concrete or rocks, so that you're constantly, the charge that builds up in the body is dumping to earth. And it's the same with Wi-Fi and all the cell phone towers. It's a really good exercise to walk barefoot it just connects you to ground so that the radiation charge doesn't build up in your nervous system and brain, etc. So you can see number 2 is an X28.57, and that was 2001, April 2nd. And you can see the number 3 position was again 2003, an X24. We haven't had an X24, people. The largest was Tuesday, as actually yesterday, was an X8.7, but that was not direct Earth facing. But the X part of it, the extreme part of it, did ionize the Earth and cause radio wave blackouts. So let me show you on this chart where ours are located. Here you go. 2024, May 14th, is in the 17th position. So all this pandemonium about how these are the worst flares in history, no, they're not at all. Not at all. But they're very powerful. In fact, they're quite beautiful. They're energizing our planet. And this is a normal cycle in the sunspot cycle. Our sun is due approximately every 11 years to do a pole flip. That's the sun, not the Earth. And it's due right now to flip. So this is not unusual what's happening at all is what I'm showing you. You can also see another 2024 in the 27th position of an X6.3 down here, right? And you have all the way to position number 50 in 2001. Position 49 is 1998. We had an X4.03. So remember, most of these flares that were in the X2 region, X1.5, X2, all the way to the X8.7 was not direct Earth facing, but again, part of that energy, because it reaches what's called the Parker spiral zone, which I'll get into a little later. So just putting it in perspective, I'm putting it in perspective because most people out there don't know this. I mean, I've been watching the sun and earthquakes like the stock market for over 25 years, actually. So I just find the solar system very, very fascinating. Again, when you see the Carrington sunspot graphic here, and this is from spaceweather.com, you can see the size of this sunspot is really, really remarkable. So that's just the beginning. Let me just stop sharing here because this is making my screen. So right now, this sunspot is going behind the sun. In about another 12 days, you'll see it pop back around. That's the moment I'm looking for. I'm looking to see if it's going to give off all of its energy and its mass, and it's going to shrink, or is it going to grow bigger? And if it grows bigger, it will be the biggest, most massive sunspot on ever recorded that we know about. And that's, I mean, again, it was already big enough to produce an X40. Remember in 2003, I remember 2003 because that's the year I met my wife, Crystal. And we were driving around Los Angeles in our car, and we made tinfoil hats just kind of as a joke. It was kind of funny. But in Europe, there were 2 huge grids that were completely knocked out. So those grids got knocked out in an X40. So we peaked at X8.7 here. So that's just putting it in perspective. We didn't see any grids go down in this, but what we saw is really quite magical in a lot of ways. I'm just going to find some of this stuff that I have. So I've shown you the comparison of the sizes, and I've shown you the comparison of the Carrington. And this is here something of great interest here. Let me go to this, and then I have to go to this is an example of, okay, here, let me just go to my share screen again, because I have to
Remember, you click on present for share screen.
Yeah, I know. I just got so many windows open here. Oh my god, here we go. Present. Share screen. And let's just go to this one here. So I can do one window at a time. So what we're seeing here is during an actual series of images, you can see of one of the CMEs, the coronal mass ejections. And the total volume of charged particles in a CME is what makes this sunspot so powerful, is the voluminous size of this sunspot gives it more volume of charged particles when it was directly Earth facing. And that's another reason why we had such a spectacular show. But notice in the upper left, we have Pleiades, because during these sunspots, which begin somewhere around the 9th of May, and note that the 9th of May this year on the lunar calendar in the Western Church is Jesus's Ascension Day. And which means we're in alignment. For those of you who have been following me on my other presentations on Sasha Stone, Carrie Cassidy, Rex Bear, about hypothetical planet 139, which is an alignment to Jesus's Ascension Day, we're in harmony with one orbit of that heavenly antimatter planet body, which is, again, it's mathematically there, as I've demonstrated before. The most holy day of the year for the ancient Hebrews, Yom Kippur, also has alignments to planet 139 position. St. Francis's Ascension Day has alignments to the this position. And remember, the very first day the Mother Mary appears to the three children at Fatima is May the 13th. And that's on the current Gregorian calendar. So note that it's May 15th today. And May 13th, we're right in that. And that's because May 13th is approximately dead center to the window of one orbit, one harmonic orbit of hypothetical planet 139, which I believe is the planet heaven in the Bible. And that's because in the Bible, the word heaven, which in the original Greek is named 139 times 2, which is 278 times. And that's two orbits of 139. And that's because at 278 days, you come to the miracle of the sun at Fatima, which puts you at October 13th or mid-October, being in harmony with that. And that's in my previous work. So what's amazing about this solar activity is we're in alignment to Jesus's Ascension Day window. We absolutely are, because on the Western Church calendar, the Ascension is May the 9th. But if you go on a solar calendar, the Ascension could be May the 18th to the 21st. And so we're right in there. So that means when this thing returns, and again, we're in Pleiades. So I want to talk about that for a minute, because when the movie Knowing came out with Nicolas Cage, which kind of shows an end of the world scenario where these Palladian-like ETs come and they take the children away in spaceships and they put them on this new planet. In the very beginning of the movie, it was very quick, but they talked about Pleiades being in alignment to the sun, and that's where we are right now. So I don't know if the artist who wrote that script was just plugged into this timing, right? I'll go to some of these questions in a minute, but if you really see this, that the sun is in Taurus, and of course it's been in Taurus where the Pleiades are this whole cycle, during this whole cycle. So let me I just stopped sharing this so I can show you other images I have here. Here we go, present, share screen. I want to share window. This is a picture of the actual sunspot in the lower, right-hand quadrant. And so in this graphic, it's with the sun facing us, the sun is rotating from left to right. And of course, this sunspot here, which is the biggest I've seen in my lifetime, is behind the sun. And in about 11 or 12 days, you're going to see it popping out on the left-hand side again. And that's what I want to watch out for. I want to see if this sunspot is going to get bigger. And if it does, we're in for another big show here, right? We're in for a really, really big show. So I'm just going to show you on.
So when does it circle back? In the next few days?
No, it won't circle back until 12 days.
12 days, yeah.
Yeah. 12 more days. And again, it should actually lose its voluminous mass, and then we should just go back to, that's what I would think would happen. Right. That's what I'm just looking for the sky. Oh, this is really important here to show. I think I'll show this next. And then, because I'm clicking away my presentation, which is all lined up on the internet here. So it's kind of hard to find all the exact pages. So window, this is what a radio blackout looks like here. So you can see that this last flare, this big red zone, which is North America, Central and South America, and Greenland, Iceland, Western Africa, basically, Western Europe, had radio blackouts in the 15 to 30 megahertz. Yeah, that's megahertz, which means you would not be able to communicate in those radio bands. So in the old days, we didn't have gigahertz bands. So the internet is operating on low to mid gigahertz bands, which is why you don't see an interruption in modern communication systems. But ham radio operators and people using amateur radio operators using what used to be standard bands, but are now basically for amateur radio communicators, only they experience the blackout, meaning they can't communicate. And that lasts for quite a while, this zone, right? And also, depending on where the charged particles ionize the atmosphere, if it had been in Europe and it had been in X40, that's why you would see in 2003 the power grid go down there, and it doesn't go down in North America. So you don't know exactly where these things are going to hit. So again, it's really super energizing to the body. And here we go. Here's the sky live. So this is what I want to show you now. This really interests me is the alignments at Cosmos. So you see here the sky live, and this is, let me just refresh this. So it's current right now. So we're looking in the west, and you can see the Pleiades right in this region of the sun. Also, Jupiter, Uranus, Venus, all in this region right now. And this Pleiades will stay near the sun. It was closer to the sun than that during the actual events, but it's right in the region of the sun in alignment during these events, and it stays in that window for about a month, and then it changes to another constellation. And also the moon. So let's go. Where is the moon right now? The moon, that's south, might be below the horizon right now. There's the moon right here. And if I can zoom this in, you can see the moon is actually in Leo. But if you hold, the moon is in Leo, but it's actually what space weather said last night, and I use an app on my phone called Starwalk 2. And according to Starwalk 2, the moon, okay, where's the moon right now? It is, there's the sun. There it is. The moon is right in Leo. And the star Regulus is literally right next to the moon right now. And of course, Regulus is not only the Leo star, but it is the Great Sphinx of Egypt. Is, one very prevailing theory is that it had an alignment to Regulus on a certain date. So we have our moon aligned to Regulus. The star Regulus is literally, this particular program here is not, the Sky Live is not as good at showing you the constellations as what I'm seeing right here. I mean, you can literally see that Regulus is right under, or there's the moon. It's just right in front of the moon on the lion's, the right on his paw. I'll show you right here. I'll take this off. It's right here on the lion's paw right now. Regulus is there. So you have this double pairedness of Pleiades and Regulus. So Regulus is the moon, the Pleiades is the sun. And again, the alignment of Regulus to the moon has been going on for several days now. So the timing is really, really remarkable, because you have two legendary star systems that have this peculiar alignment going on at this time. So again, I think these flares are pulling in some really, really incredible energy. So now we come to, I'm just going to show you space weather. So on space weather, you just go to spaceweather.com. We actually, that was the last X flare, this was the moment of the 8.7. But if I refresh space weather right now, we have a new emerging sunspot that produced an X3 explosion, and this is getting strange. It's coming now from the southeastern limb of the sun, and this is not, of course, the same sunspot coming back into view, because that would be about 11 days behind what's coming. So here we got something coming. And again, X-class events are very rare on the sun. I mean, we're in the peak of our, sunspot cycle. We're at, again, the sun is due to flip its poles, but now we have another one coming into view, and by tomorrow, we will see which one it is. It's none of these that are on the current map. This is coming from behind, and this is what I mean. Are they going to come back bigger and stronger than? I mean, if we get a sunspot that's way bigger than the Carrington when it returns, I mean, I would be concerned to some degree, not terribly. Again, when the X40 happened in 2003, I mean, we didn't die, nothing like that happened. So there's this new series on Netflix right now all about that, how these, sunspots come and solar flares come, and they everybody dies from the radiation. So yeah, so we're seeing another one coming, and that is getting really interesting. Again, it's an X3. We're nowhere near the numbers that I showed you before. So let me just see. There's another slide here I want to show you in this presentation. Window. It's this one. This was in Forbes magazine, and this is quite remarkable. And in this article, you start to understand not only the orbit of the Earth around the sun. Does the Earth orbit the sun more slowly with each new year? In fact, the Earth orbiting the sun is in its precision, it changes velocity very slightly throughout its orbit of 365.256 days per sidereal year, and the decimals just keep going. But the part that interests me here is the fact right here. Every time that 4 protons fuse together, culminating in the production of 1 helium-4 nucleus, a total of 28 million electron volt of energy is released. If we convert that into mass, which is Einstein's famous equation, equals mc squared, allows us to do, we learned that the sun loses a total of about 4 million tons of mass due to nuclear fusion with every second that passes. Over the lifetime of our solar system, which is about 4.5 billion years, the sun's mass has decreased by about 95 Earth masses. So the sun, over 4.5 billion years, has given off enough mass energy to equal 95 Earths. So those plasma waves that are hitting us, it's literally giving us mass energy. And it's coming into our bodies, and it's coming into our brains. And it's doing this, in these cycles, which we're peaking at right now. They get really, really strong, and then eventually they'll get really, really weak, and we'll get a break. And that's just the natural cycle.
So what would you say are the implications of that?
Well, I think
this
is what I kind of wanted to show next, is when you get into implications, there's all these images, and I've really checked these images. There's a lot of them people are sharing. They're not AI. We're seeing, and this has the photographer's name, Madison Coe, and you can see in the middle of that what looks like a divine person, like the head at the side, angel's wings coming off the back. We're seeing a lot of these kind of angelic images, and I verified on the Space Weather Gallery that people are really getting these, and those really interest me. And I've got some of them up on my Facebook here. I'm going to scroll down to some of them and just kind of share them with you, because I think it's almost like there is some type of communication happening here. And this is actually not unusual with solar flares to look like angel's wings. Of course, this one's in Arizona, and where I used to live in Sedona, where my first daughter was born. And, that's incredibly beautiful to see that so far south. You can't really call these northern lights anymore because the whole planet. This was posted on National Geographic, and they're just spectacular. This is kind of like what we saw here. And you see how this image in the center, it looks like a Maltese cross, right? And it looks like a Maltese cross. The lower portion of the Maltese cross is very much like a crucifix. And remember, this is Jesus's ascension day window when all of this was happening. Some of these, when you really get into them, like I can almost see an angel with these huge wings and the long gown here and the head and this upper region. And again, you're going to see more of these and more of these. Here's some that were posted. That's again showing the actual flare happening with Pleiades, rotating into view. And then this one here, it looks like a face, and the hairline and the wings outstretched. Really, really incredible. Again, remember, you've got Pleiades in alignment, and you've got Regulus at the moon. So to see some of the shapes of these divine things. And these images from the space station really bewilder me, because you can see it's not like the northern lights where it's just getting the north. The whole planet is being completely supercharged with all these beautiful color bands. I mean, these are the color bands we saw here. And I'm just north of northern Idaho in the Nelson, BC area. So we were getting colors more like this. But you can see it's not just in the north. It's getting a huge portion of the planet is just getting supercharged right now. And the effects of this, you have to understand, when energy transfers photoelectrically into systems, the energy has to do something. It has to go somewhere. It has to do its job. These ones are very angelic. There's no real sign of AI here at all. I mean, this is real. The reason the image is blurred
Wow.
is they're taking it with their iPhone, and I did the same thing. And you have to hold your phone really steady, because it takes about, a 2-second exposure or so. So that's why the mountains down below look really blurred. And this one, again, these are very angelic. Like this one, like a pair of wings, and you can almost see like an arm here and a head and a gown. This one, again, the same. Really, really beautiful what's going on here. So that's I mean, that's kind of a roundup of what's really going on here with these flares. I mean, it's to me, in my meditation during the peak of the flares, I experienced a tremendous bliss, which I experience every day in meditation. But there are qualities in the bliss that are in the coronal mass ejections. And I'm feeling the energy of the colors, and there is a really extra added energy there, as to me, that I see more as a gift than anything to really be fearful of. I mean, this image here from the Grand Canyon, I mean, I've hiked in the Grand Canyon. I just can't even believe they were seeing this in the Grand Canyon. I mean, there's people even far north who didn't get lucky enough to be looking in the right direction at the right time to see this. So
Wow.
so with that, let me see some of these questions people had.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
You
we had
got them?
an earthquake in Mexico. Remember, the energy has to go somewhere. So it can heat up magma. It can cause earthquakes. But again, the level of these flares is not really super high by comparison. I mean, it could cause earthquakes. You could see things happening on the earth in the following days to weeks, because the energy has to go somewhere. Yeah, again, what I recommend, if you have headaches, if it's increasing your blood pressure, get your bare feet on the grass. It will release the energy into the earth. Get real grounding. Don't use one of these grounding blankets. I mean, if you live in a tower, so if you live in an office tower type apartment, you've got steel beams going to ground into the earth. You just got to get your feet on the tiles, and the whole building has to be, by law, electrically grounded. But you just got to get your rubber shoes off, because if you're insulated, you're not going to ground, right? So go for a walk on the beach if you're having headaches. Just get your whole organism, your whole nervous system grounded. But I would say really enjoy this. To me, it's a blessing. It's an incredible energy that I've been feeling in the meditation, and I think that some of that could be the Pleiadian energies that are coming in, because you got the Pleiades way out in space, over 400 light years away, and the stream of light from the Pleiades is wrapping around the magnetic currents of the sun, and then the sun is blasting them to Earth. So I think we're getting a really big Palladian hit. And of course, the sunlight that bounces off the moon, which is in Regulus, Leo, we're getting it. We're at nighttime. We're getting Regulus, and there's a lot of energy coming, reflecting off the moon to the Earth, and so we're in a very special window here. I mean, you can only just experience it, and I mean, I know some people are reporting feeling completely wiped out, and again, that could be from an energy overload because it's real energy. Your spine is made of calcium, which is a metal. You have 72 trace metals in your body, which are crystals. Some are metallic, some are more crystalline, like the sodium and the. But you're definitely getting charged, right? So if you're getting headaches, just ground with those bare feet on the rocks on the beach or whatever you have access to in nature, and do it a few times a day. Again, we have to look at what, I mean, I'm going to look at space weather tomorrow morning and see what this new sunspot is doing, because if it's already producing an X3, remember when this current sunspot came in, it was producing around X2s when it came in, and it was notably right away comparable in size to the Carrington sunspot from 1859, which is the biggest one on record. And so we've already got an X3, and it's still not, it's coming out the side of the sun. So you know at right angles to that, at 90 degrees to that ejecta, we're getting affected by it. So if it's producing an X3, I can't wait to see the size of this one. So all you got to do is go to spaceweather.com, and also there's another one which is NOAA. You can go to NOAA, and there's another website there where you can see. I mean, they both have different. They both report different data. Yeah, some people said they get headaches, stiffness. Some people get exhaustion. Again, it's a huge amount of energy we're all getting right now. So you just have to work with that energy. I think it really matters what we think in an increased energy field. So if you think fear, you might magnify fear. But if you think super positive thoughts in this huge increased energy, and also if you do, you know, tuning frequencies like the ones that I offer, keep the body tuned, keep it harmonized, you'll really benefit from.
They can use Earth to ground too, right? The Earth frequency.
Well, the Earth frequency is not technically ground, but it is a wave that the Schumann resonance is not the frequency of Earth. See, the Schumann resonance is the first standing wave in response to the frequency of the Earth, and the frequency of the Earth is just a tad lower. It's not even 1 decimal point lower than the Schumann. So it's just like with cymatics. If I induce a frequency in a bowl of water or oil, and I see the wave patterns, those are the standing waves. When you drop a pebble in the water, the resistance of the water forms a standing wave, and then when it hits the perimeter and comes back upon itself, it forms standing waves. And the standing waves in a circular dish of water, the one with the widest diameter will be slightly shorter than the diameter of the dish. So it's slightly higher in frequency than the actual frequency of the Earth. I know mathematically, the exact frequency of the Earth is about 7.48 thereabout hertz, and the Schumann is 7.83. And notice 7.83 is a little bit higher in frequency, which means the wavelength is just a little bit shorter, just a tad shorter. And that's why a standing wave is in response to a frequency wave. It's not the actual frequency of the planet. So the grounding is the Earth is negative ground. It's actually negative ground. So the photons are positive charge, and if you build too much positive, you need to balance it with negative. So you just put your feet on the ground. Tesla said the earth is an infinite source of negative, which is where your ground is. So that's what you do. Somebody says, I feel tired, clear-minded. Solfeggio and rife. Yeah, so I mean, solfeggio, I mean, rife frequencies are for, hypothetically speaking, and some people find them very effective for treating illness. They're very specific frequencies. And solfeggio is a kind of partial lost music scale. It's not a complete music scale. I've turned solfeggio into a complete scale, an actual scale, by building in octaves into the basic solfeggio tones. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, using frequencies to tune the nervous system, and also ultimately, I mean, I have my staff and my scepter on over there all the time in here, and I pick them up to tune my nervous system to keep it in tune. What's detuning us more than anything is the Wi-Fi towers. There's over 250,000 towers in the United States alone. And those towers are putting out such huge, disharmonic, unnatural vibrations that disturb the nervous system, and therefore can have a disturbing effect on consciousness, which is the number one reason to tune. And to tune the nervous system regularly, is an enormous addition to the meditation experience. I've found over 45 years of meditating every day. The tuning methods, keeping the human instrument tuned like an actual instrument, it accelerates the benefits of meditation 1,000 times. Whereas if you're just sitting there staring and trying to blank your mind out, you're going to have a hard time really getting anywhere. Yeah. I have to bury the tourmaline in the ground. Yeah, the best thing to do with your crystals is put them back in the soil, put them on the ground. That way they get into the earth current, the Schumann resonances. There's not just one. I mean, the Schumann resonance isn't just one frequency. It's not just 7.83. There's a whole series of numbers, because you get a lot of interference patterns on a spherical earth, and the waves bump into each other, and they form all of these different nodes, and those nodes are not always the same frequency. They're not always the same frequency. They kind of rotate around. Also, I've noticed that the Schumann resonances apparently didn't respond right away, at least, to the impetus of the CMEs, the coronal mass ejectus. So again, sometimes the energy won't show up in the earth for a few days or even weeks. But remember, the energy has to do something. It has to go somewhere. It has to do something. And again, that can be weather even. I've seen huge weather-related events, which we're having in the eastern United States right now and have been for several weeks. Are Regulus and the Archangel Raphael connected in any way? Do you know the answer to that, Shroth? I don't know.
Regulus and the Archangel.
Raphael.
Which Archangel?
Are the star Regulus?
So.
I don't know the answer to that, but
I don't know.
Somebody says I must meditate. Yeah, meditation and meditating with frequencies is the greatest. I find getting older that by investing so much time in my younger years in meditation, it was the best investment I ever made. And it's never too late to start, because the way it makes you feel it's indescribable what it feels like. Once you can access real bliss that is sustainable bliss, it's not like you get really high and then you come back down. It's not like you get high and then you crash into a depression. It's a sustainable bliss state that just shines in you, and it's the qualities in that bliss, that supernatural ecstasy, surpass all forms of human pleasure. And eventually you start finding that you're living in an energy field of cosmic proportions more than the physical body. So eventually you feel 5% of an energy field and then 10%. Even if you get to 25%, where you're in the fields 25% of your awareness, you can feel what's happening in the solar system. You can navigate through it. And what we've been doing in my inner circle for the past year is we've gone 2 weeks at a time through the frequencies of all the planets in the solar system. And then we did the planets in pairs, because when you understand the frequency and the wavelength coming off of each planet, they're actually in pairs. Like the Earth frequency wavelength is comparable to Venus. So Venus and Earth are twins, they're pairs. Jupiter and Saturn are their frequencies are so close because their wavelengths are so close. So they're all paired in this divine cosmic proportion relationship. And when you do those frequencies and you tune your nervous system and you take the journey through, the feelings you have with each planet, and we did the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, the moons of Uranus and Neptune, because if you know the radius of those spheres, you know the frequencies. And then now we're in the inner circle, we're doing the stars. And right when we started, we did the North Star for 2 weeks, Polaris, and now we're on the Southern Star. Right when we were in the middle of it, the flares started. And I got this message, this incredible message this morning when we were doing the frequencies of the Southern Pole Star. And it's a very, very profound message. So when you plug in, because your nervous system actually plugs into the circuitry of all the stars and all the planets, they start talking to you. They're full living beings. Just like if you put your feet on the grass, the earth will tell you how it feels. It will let you feel how it feels, and it will even tell you things, right? So
According to Kabbalah, Raphael was associated with the sun, basically.
Sorry for Kabbalah.
According to Kabbalah, Raphael was associated with the sun. So I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how that would associate to another star.
The formula is, if you go on Wikipedia for the and we just do this so you can see this. So, because I have a few more minutes, so we go the okay, Tesla Schumann resonance. Okay, here we go. So let's go here. And let's go back to share screen. Should be this one here. There, Schumann resonance. So if you look at this, let me just see where it's written here. In the normal mode descriptions of Schumann resonances, the fundamental mode is a standing wave in the Earth ionospheric cavity with a wavelength equal to the circumference of the Earth, right? But that's not exactly right. It's pretty close. I would say that's 99% true. And I've looked at this for years, because the standing wave is in response to the wavelength equal to the circumference. If you take the circumference of the Earth, right, and you take the speed of light, the formula for electromagnetic frequency is you take the speed of light in an accurate measurement. I have it right down to the foot in my in a Word file. And I'll take the circumference of the Earth in feet and the speed of light in feet divided by the circumference of the Earth in feet, and I won't get 7.83. I'll get 7. Can actually show you. So let me just open this up. I can actually show you what this really looks like. And then once you get the frequency of a star or a planet, I mean, I have the frequencies for all the planets. Let me just go back to Zoom. So we don't need that. So we know that that's how the Schumann resonance works. And then we can go here. I can actually show you. Share screen. Here we go. So these are the frequencies and ratios of the planets in our solar system, and you just take the once you know the radius, or it's even better to look up what NASA knows to be the circumference, right? So when you look at Mercury, which has an orbit of just under 88 days, a radius of 2,439.7 kilometers, an equatorial circumference of 15,329.087 kilometers. Its frequency is 19.5. Notice it's 19.5, which is 591 in reverse, by the way. And that's Richard Hoagland's famous 19.5, if you know Richard Hoagland's work. So very amazing. That's Mercury, right? The messenger planet. Now, you can either use a golden ratio as an octave, or really it's a musical sixth technically, but or you can use a traditional octave times 2, and then you build all your frequencies in octaves of the planet Mercury. And I've actually calculated the frequencies of the ascension planet of Jesus. And there's Venus. We know its radius and its circumference. So notice Venus is 7.88. And the Tesla-Schumann resonance is 7.83. That's what I mean by the planets are paired. They're in pairs. There's 2 of them whose frequencies are super close. So again, I add all my golden ratio octaves. Earth, here we go. Circumference. Frequency is 7.48. Oh, 9. I mean, this is how many decimals of accuracy I have. Now notice that if I put that on a calculator, I'm just going to do this for a second. I'll tell you the accuracy of that to the Schumann resonance. And we only have the Schumann resonance to 2 decimals. So divided by 7.83, instead of doing over, it's 95.5% accurate to the Schumann resonance. You see what I'm saying? So the wavelength of the Earth is the circumference of the Earth. So it puts out a slightly lower frequency than the first standing wave, right? So now I have this for all the planets, and I do the same thing for stars. So I have musical tones very accurate for all the stars you can think of, all the planets. And when you run those frequencies through your nervous system, the way a radio works is when the receiver and the transmitter are the same frequency, you have communication. So if I tune you to Venus, you are tuned to Venus. You really are. And therefore, you start to synchronize with Venus. Remember, Venus, Earth are so close. They're way less than 1 decimal frequency away from each other. They're almost in perfect harmony with each other. And if I play Venus and Earth in pairs next to each other, there's this beautiful kind of shimmering, and that when you build in all of your octaves. And that's what gives you an experience. And that's what the ancient Greeks, the earliest Greek philosophers, were doing. And Pythagoras was tuning musical instruments to the frequencies of the planets. I mean, I have this incredible scene in this book, Music of the Spheres by Jamie James, where he's describing in this wedding feast, the goddess Harmony comes into this wedding feast, and she's all adorned in gold, this beautiful gold helmet, and she's wearing this wheeled within wheeled golden instrument on her chest, and she starts playing music, and it surpasses all the music of the flutes, of the lyres, the tetrachords, and the Greeks have never heard anything like it. Of course, she's a goddess. She's come down to present this to the ancient Greeks, and even Athena, who is and Apollo, who are god and goddesses to music, are utterly astounded, because she then speaks to the philosophers, telling them that the music she's producing is based on the ratios of the planets. So again, your nervous system, I mean, if I tune you to Jupiter, to Jupiter's moons, you do that for 2 weeks, which is what we've been doing, you start having an experience. And
I mean, it's
there's
very
no
cool.
way to put it in words. It affects your consciousness. It affects your dreams. It affects your synchronicities in your life. And it affects your ability to creatively insight at a genius level, because those planets are a gift. So again, we're all getting detuned by microwave towers everywhere. We don't even know it. It's happening because it's happening on a nervous system level. So taking that journey for me, I didn't even know when we went through the planets, and then I decided to do the planets in pairs. I didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't actually do it before, but it's amazing. That's all I can tell you. So when an event like this is happening, in a way, I could kind of look at it like this: the sun in these CMEs is clearing the slate. It's blocking out radio signals. It's clearing this slate in a way, getting ready for the sun to flip its poles approximately 11 point something years. And Jupiter's orbit is 11.87 Earth years around the sun. So Jupiter's orbit and the sun's polar flips they're very close to being synchronistic. So we're in this moment where all of this energy may be cleaning the slate so that we can start again. I mean, that's one way of looking at when you get a huge impetus of energy. It's like a huge ocean wave. It just cleans everything out, and we're ready to start again. So anyway, if you're interested in learning more about those frequencies, just go on my website, and we'll see. Go to spaceweather.com. We'll see what this new sunspot's going to do coming around.
Yeah.
So have a great night,
Yeah.
everybody. Thanks for showing up. And again, the replay for this is always on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.